We learned this week that at some previous juncture, Mark Rutte, former Prime Minister of the Netherlands, now Secretary-General of NATO, may have struck some sort of bargain with a scarlet gentleman with horns and a tail, under the terms of which, yes, he gets to be the diplomatic and administrative head of the mightiest military force ever fielded, which is doubtless tremendous fun, but is obliged to forfeit his soul. Music there from Charles Gounod's opera Faust, adapted from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's play of the same name, intended to evoke the notion of the proverbial Faustian pact, an extremely erudite device which we would not have wanted you to miss.
I get it now.
Righto, carry on.
And that's the NATO hymn. Yes, NATO has a hymn, composed by Lieutenant Colonel André Reichling, a former band leader with the armed forces of Luxembourg, making by far the greatest contribution to Europe's collective defence that Luxembourg is ever likely to bestow. Ooh! Come on, what are they going to do about it? Monocle could take Luxembourg, and you've seen us.
Come on. Just get on with it.
We learned anyway that under the terms of Rutte's contract with Mephistopheles, whereas previous occupants of the Secretary-General's role got to engage with such US presidents as...
We must continue to create and sustain within the free world the necessary strength to make certain of the common security.
And...
While other alliances have been formed to win wars, our fundamental purpose is to prevent war, while preserving and extending the frontiers of freedom.
And...
In this challenging moment, I want to take this opportunity to state clearly what will never change, and that is the unwavering commitment of the United States to the security and defense of Europe.
Rutte is damned to play abbot to the Costello of...
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay.
A role which, we learned, involves trying to keep the big goose happy by nodding gamely along to his somewhat Janet and John analyses of Middle Eastern affairs.
They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes, then it's easy to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while you have to use a certain word.
We learned, however, that one certain word used by the Secretary-General had caught the ear of attending media, who were delighted to be furnished with an excuse to avoid reporting and explaining actual policy. To be clear, we, as a humorous weekly news review, are absolutely allowed to focus on such trivia and indeed inanity. We would be grateful at this time for the moral support of the General Muttered Agreement crew. Appreciate it.
Wait till your father gets, until your father gets, wait till your father gets home.
For we learned that the 2025 North Atlantic Treaty Organization Summit appeared to have been brought to us by the word Daddy.
Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you Daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Unless it wasn't.
The daddy thing, I didn't call him daddy. What I said is that sometimes in Europe, I hear sometimes countries saying, hey Mark, will the US stay with us? And I said, that sounds a little bit like a small child asking his daddy, hey, are you still staying with the family? So in that sense I use daddy, not that I was calling President Trump daddy.
At the same confabulation of a free world, which may on reflection be less deserving of protection than we may previously have believed, we learned that international affairs are complicated.
No, really?
Damn.
Oh,
Whoa.
that blows my mind.
Really?
No way. Blow me down.
We learned that among the people very nearly as surprised by this as you are is the President of the United States, as revealed when asked why ending Russia's rampage in Ukraine appeared to be taking somewhat longer than the 24 hours he had promised while campaigning.
You've now been in office for 5 months and 5 days. Why have you not been able to end the Ukraine war?
Because it's more difficult than people would have any idea.
This, despite the fact that we had previously learned from the same sagely source that, in contradiction to several dozen centuries of accrued conventional wisdom, the Middle East is really pretty straightforward, uncomplicated.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
And certainly nothing that cannot be addressed by communicating from an actual presidential social media account, and to be clear, this is a thing that happened, a 1980 vintage novelty hit by Vince Vance and the Valiants.
Bum, 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 Iran. Bum, 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 Iran.
We learned, however, that there are yet more severe audio punishments. For we learned that a new world record had been set for continuous playing of the steel pan. We learned that there was another 31 hours of that from whence that came, and we're now going to play all of it. No, but seriously, nobody is that cruel except, we learned, Trinidad and Tobago steel panist Joshua Regrello, who belaboured his pot lids for fully 1,860 minutes in pursuit of his place in the Guinness Book, despite this seeming very much like one of those records which is there for the taking for pretty much anyone who can be bothered, there being no apparent statutory requirement for any actual competence in the instrument, let alone expertise as rarefied as that indubitably possessed by Mr. Regrello. We learned that when we did our research, because we're good like that there is a whole universe of such point-free endeavours, including records for continuous playing of banjo, 24 hours 57 seconds, tuba, 24 hours 8 minutes, and accordion, 80 brutal hours 53 unsparing minutes 28 merciless seconds. We have not learned, however, that a mark has been established for longest continual satirising of the previous 7 days' news events illustrated with whimsical audio effects. So we've something to aim at next week. For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Mueller.